I don't think I was wanked out by the music.
Now dig on this.
Ten hut.
The Banter Boys go marching to hurrah,
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 hurrah.
The Banter Boys go marching to
Hurrah, hurrah. I
I
never know the lyrics to this. It's really funny because like we're marching in like a really small room. So like we've already circled the table like 6 times.
It's funny because we're making lots of noise and our neighbors hate us.
Yeah, it's true. I really like to think that there's like a really cranky old woman who only likes like new movies. And so she's like, oh, those boys going on about their classics.
They never shut up about those old movies, Dave. I just want to watch the new stuff.
Even
to
though
keep me
I'm
young.
old, it's kind of ironic.
But welcome
everyone.
to everyone, one and all, to Classic Movie Banter, that podcast where me, that guy Brenton, and that other guy over there, Nathan.
Hello.
We talk about movies that are 20 years or older. 20 years, or in this case,
35 years.
35 years, and we tell you, our listeners, if those films are still worth watching today or not, and more importantly, if they're worth inviting all of your mates, your friends, your family, your significant others around on a Thursday night to pop that disc or video cassette into your player and to have a good old watcheroo.
Tell you what, Brenton, I would seriously love to see you invite all your family around, because I know your family well, and just see you put on Platoon for them. Like, just to see what that viewing experience would be like. Like, I would love that. I would just want to sit there. I would sit there watching your family rather than the movie, just to see them go through it.
Could you imagine, like, every week after, like, we kind of finalize our ratings, and I go, well, we both gave it a thumbs up this week, so time to watch it. My family's just sitting there, strapped to the chairs, going, we do this every week, and it drives us insane.
It's like Clockwork Orange. They got like their eyes peeled open and all that. They're just like,
it's good to be here for another week, another movie.
Another day, another movie. You know, we're kicking Enter the Dragon into the dust. Get it out of here. Bye, Bruce Lee. We're going to the Vietnam War instead. Are you excited, Brenton?
We're going into the era of 80s film. You know what I mean? We're going there. We're going into the, mid 80s.
This is actually the first 80s film, Brenton, that was ever made.
Really?
No, that's not true.
That must have been a boring 6 years. But Nathan, do you have a question for me?
Yeah, I do. Can you fuck off?
Oh, wait. Whoa. Yeah. No, not that one, Nathan.
Oh.
I just realized I haven't even introduced the film we're reviewing
No,
yet.
of course. Who would direct this film? Is it Oliver Stone,
Nathan?
critically acclaimed writer of Scarface, and also critically acclaimed director of... What else has he made? He's made a bunch of shit, right? JFK, Nixon, W... Oh, he made Snowden, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, you know.
Nathan, you took my job, mate. You did such a good job.
Because I've been reading up on him. I do my research, mate.
Nathan, this week we're reviewing that film Platoon, which was released in 1986 and was directed, as you said, by Oliver Stone.
Fun fact, this is the first film ever to be written and directed by a Vietnam War veteran.
Wow, it's going to add some authenticity to the filmmaking, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be funny if he went the other direction. He's just like, nah, fuck it, man. This is what I wanted the war to be. Like,
fuck it, man. We're making Jurassic Park, all right? There were dinosaurs there. What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Oliver? I'm telling you, it happened.
We've already done that where a monster attacks like troops. It's called Predator. We've already done that metaphor.
Could you imagine if freaking bloody Arnold Schwarzenegger was in this movie?
Oh my goodness. Like they're all getting battered down, but then Arnie comes out of the bushes and he's like, get to the chopper. And he's just gunning down the...
Well, Nathan,
anyway,
I'm going to pitch this movie for you and for all of our friends back home.
Can you pitch me the movie?
Today, I'll be pitching you a new movie, a new idea.
Ooh.
Nathan, we're going to Vietnam.
Oh.
We're going to the war in Vietnam.
Oh, no.
And we're going to follow... Guess what we're going to follow?
Who are we going to follow, Brenton? Are we going to follow a soldier?
Nathan, we're actually going to follow multiple soldiers in a platoon. But really, we're actually just going to follow one soldier. And it's Charlie Sheen. He's off the bender and he needs a break. So he needs to get to the jungle and go for a bush walk.
He's got that tiger blood or whatever he said he had. Like,
So Charlie Sheen needs to get some lessons from Willem Dafoe and how to survive. He needs to get some lessons from the Green Goblin himself, Willem Dafoe, in how to survive Nam.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe is back.
Yeah, I don't really want to give much away on this one. I just want to say this is a war movie exploring the life of soldiers in Nam.
Yes.
And may shed light on some atrocities that were committed by the Americans.
Yes. And I think that's as much as you should give away when that's concerned.
So we're entering and we're getting boots on the ground. We're getting on the soldier's level, and we're trying to go through the everyday life of a soldier in the Vietnam War.
Perfect pitch, Brenton. You know, I have no idea what the Vietnam War is like, Brenton. Obviously, I've never seen a Vietnam War experience before, which is such a lie. We've seen so many of those fuckers, and they're great. You know, I'm trying to think of a Vietnam film I've seen that I haven't liked, actually. Like, they're all pretty good. Although, I think Apocalypse Now is overrated.
Ooh.
Controversial
you heard it
opinion.
here first. Would you say it's overrated enough to give it a thumbs down if we were reviewing it on the show?
No, it's fucking long. No, I think it's still worth a watch. Because it gets good when you finally meet Marlon Brando. But like, yeah, but like, have you seen it?
No, I haven't. But it's got the other Sheen in it, Marty Sheen.
It has got Marty Sheen. They just both love Vietnam. Also, want to point out to you listeners, the reason we're doing Platoon today is we got a lovely email from Sam who wrote in and said to us, "You guys haven't done any Vietnam War movies yet. Full Metal Jacket, Deer Hunter, Apocalypse Now, and Platoon are all really great." So out of that list, we chose Platoon because I'm like, fuck Apocalypse Now.
So here we are. Nathan, I'm going to rip off the Band-Aid and I'm going to get into it. Nathan,
Good.
You say you thought that Apocalypse Now was overrated.
Yes.
Is Platoon overrated? Is it worth a watch? What's going on?
I've heard have you heard anything about Platoon before we did this today?
Okay. I knew that there was a scene.
Oh, I didn't. I didn't know about the scene in this movie.
Yeah, there's a scene that had some
very
famous imagery that I knew was from this film. Yeah.
See, I didn't, and it was such a wonderful surprise. Like we've had a couple times in the show when something iconic suddenly pops up, and I'm like, oh, even though it's really fucking sad. So like, I was really conflicted. I was like, but then I was like,
oh wow, it's that thing. It's horrifying and horrible.
It's really sad.
Oh.
Yeah. Look, dude, I'm so glad you pitched this week because this is a fucking difficult movie to pitch.
Agreed.
Yeah, because like I remember for the first half of this movie kind of almost not liking it because it feels aimless. It does feel very just like let's hang out in Vietnam like kind of movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. It's just like got that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood feel of let's just go through someone's day-to-day life and check out what it's like with boots on the ground. You know what I mean? I wouldn't go that far to say as that it was boring or slow or anything like that. I was still enticed. I was still on board through the beginning, but I do understand that it's a slower paced film from the start, you know?
Because I didn't know if Charlie Sheen was going to be our protagonist yet because it was kind of spending enough time with other people as well. It took a while for me to kind of cement that Charlie was our guy, you know? We're following Charlie as he experiences the war. Because I realized the conflict of this is that, the film is not obvious at all. Like, it takes a while for the movie to reveal itself. I guess you could say the arc of the film is like Charlie Sheen's kind of understanding of war. Because he's put into this platoon where like half of them are volunteer, half of them are conscripted, and like he volunteered. He's like this preppy college kid who decided to go to war.
Yes.
And everyone's like, why the fuck would you do that? Like, everyone's like, get out of Vietnam. And Charlie Sheen's all like, yeah, nah, but patriotism. And then he kind of goes through this and he's like, ooh, I'm going to narrate some deep feelings I've got right now. You know what I mean? Like,
I do know what you mean. For me, I think this movie's good. I think this movie's actually really good, and I think the filmmaking it's of a good quality.
It is. I felt tension.
Yeah. I was tense. I was wanting to know what happens next, what would happen next, and whatnot. But you know, walking away from it, I can't really say that this movie does anything necessarily new.
Yes, you're quite right.
But I think at the time it would have been quite shocking, perhaps.
Oh yeah.
To see some of the content that's in this.
It's very difficult.
And I'm glad that content is there.
Yeah. And I think it's more powerful because it's a surprise. Like, you don't know the depths that the movie's going to go to, and it's a real shock when you finally go to those places.
I think, Nathan, it's interesting that you said that you didn't know who we were following, who our guy was, and for me it was very clear from the start it was Charlie Sheen. I think the movie went out of its way because it was worried people would be like you for a bit too long, and it added those narrations in there.
Yeah.
And for the most part, like, a lot of them are they're fine, they're serviceable,
I didn't
whatever
like them.
we can get.
They're a bit wanky.
But for me, it's like, exactly, Nathan. You summed it up in
perfect.
one word. Wanky. It's too much. We didn't need that.
Yeah.
I think the movie comments on itself a bit too much.
Doesn't it feel a lot like Oscar bait?
Yeah. If we were just left with these experiences, you know, and left to kind of find answers, I guess, for ourselves. And by answers, I mean like not in terms of like plot holes or plot. I mean like to find sense, I guess, out of the senselessness of war and what's going on. I think that would have been more confronting and more powerful at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, this movie is really, really well made. It's got strong performances, and it's a good movie. But I wish it just it had the bravery to take that extra step.
Like, this film feels quite fearless, you know what I mean? Like, it feels very raw. Like, I like Oliver Stone. Like, I've always found him kind of cookie cutter. Like, I haven't found him to do anything that, like, above and beyond, if that makes sense. But, like, I like his films, but, like, I don't know, with this one, I don't know, I felt real tension when they were in the jungle. Like, when they go through the battles, and maybe it's because he is a Vietnam War vet. Like, there is that veracity that you can't get from anywhere else. Like, I don't know. Like, I really didn't want to be in Vietnam watching this movie. Like, out of all the Vietnam War films I've seen.
Absolutely not, yeah.
Like, I've seen Full Metal Jacket, all that kind of stuff. Like, man, Oliver Stone, he fucking loves his close-ups of bugs on skin, man. Like, you feel like the heat and, like, the sweat of the jungle, and they're, like, dying of thirst. Like, oh, jeez. Like, this is a hard film to watch, man.
I also like, in terms of the filmmaking, how it raises the stakes. It keeps that tension in the air by just, it's like a horror movie almost in some instances, where the shot just stays those few seconds more. You know what I mean? Like, it'll stay there. And so you're looking in the background trying to see if, you know, someone's going to jump out from a rat hole or something and blow someone up, or, you know, some horrible thing is going to happen. And so, yeah, you're very much on edge, I think, whilst you're watching this. And the tension does escalate throughout the movie spectacularly almost, you know, like by the end of this, you're going, oh, your heart's going, you're like, oh, what's going to happen?
I found the third act not that exciting as the second act. I felt like it kind of dropped off a little bit.
Well, yeah, I think the climax of the film is like
halfway.
It probably is the climax of well, it is the no, it's a bit more of a halfway. I think it's like 2/3 of the movie. So it is that climax.
It's when they're in the tent
act.
after that scene, isn't it? I found that to be the climax.
Yeah.
Because like the last act of this movie is just kind of like cleaning up. It's just tidy work. Like, it's like, oh yeah, that's right. We should probably take care of that. It's like, so yeah, it's like, man, this is a fucking hard watch. Like, I'm just so depressed, Brenton. I'm so upset watching this. Like, oh
yeah, it's not a nice time.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've done like a real depressing movie. It's like us reviewing like Schindler's List. It's like, war sucks. And this film especially, I think, drives that message further than I think anything else I've ever seen. Like this is like, nah, man, this is like fucking ugly. Like, don't do it.
Well, Nathan, I tell you what was the thing that kept the smile on my face for the most part.
Was it our favorite Goblin?
It was our favorite Goblin was back.
Oh.
It was nice to see Willem Dafoe on the screen again. It brought a little tear to my eye, and it was wholesome. And you know what? He's actually really good in this movie too. As is the rest of the cast. I think this is a good ensemble cast. The only cast member I was a bit umming and ahhing over was actually Charlie Sheen, to be honest.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, once you go, because initially when I saw everyone in this movie, I was just like, oh, look how young they are. I just want to like pinch their cheeks. I'm like, oh, look at young Willem. Oh, look at young Charlie. Like, little scruffy hair, and all they got balaclavas. Oh, they're so cool. But like outside that, you're right. Like Charlie, I don't know, man. I've never rated Charlie Sheen, to be honest. Like,
I think in this he's good. I do think he's good.
He's been given a good script.
I think the role could have, I think another actor could have taken that role and done more with it.
Willem, just double cast him.
Willem on Willem. Now that's something I'd love to see.
That'd be so. I could just imagine some iconic scenes in this movie and have like Willem on both ends of them. Like, it'd be great.
Basically just like reshoot those scenes from the Raimi Spider-Man trilogy where he's got the split personality and he's talking himself into the mirror.
Willem's done it before. In Mr. Bean's Holiday, he essentially did do every role in that movie he made.
That is true. That's very true. Yeah.
But you're right. Like, yeah, like Charlie, he's definitely one of the weaker ones. I think because everyone's giving really strong performances. You've got Sergeant Barnes, whose actor's name I'm forgetting, the bloke with the scar.
Tom Berenger.
Thank you. He was Academy nominated for this role. Willem was Academy nominated for this role. Like, you've got some great performances in here. I thought he was really strong. I fucking hated him, man.
Yeah, so did I. I thought he was really strong too.
Yeah.
Like, even though I love Willem in this movie, though, I don't necessarily know why he had the awards hype around him. I do understand why Tom Berenger did, though. I think his performance is probably the standout.
It's so layered as well. It's like he's a complex man.
Oh, you hate his character.
Oh, you hate him.
His character is he's an ugly man. His character is he's not a nice person. And
I haven't hated a character like that in a very long time. Like, you're just like fuck you, man. Like, this is, oh god. And like, yeah, and you're right. Like, I think it's built on performance. Like, he's really good. I know there's just some great little moments as well. I love Keith David in this movie. I think Johnny Depp does a good job when he's there for a couple seconds. Like,
Forrest Whitaker rocks up at a point.
He's great as well. He's still, hunting for the next Black Panther. It's great. right.
He's still going.
He's just like walking around the camp. He's like, who would challenge for the mantle? Mom's like, nah, man. Like, keep looking.
Good Lord.
This is not Wakanda. Where am I?
I was going to say, I think in terms of filmmaking, I think it's, like I said, it's really well made. I think the cinematography, the shot selection's really quite striking. Like I said at the start, the biggest props I can give this is that it doesn't shy away from difficult topics, and I do appreciate that.
Speaking of difficult things, Brenton, let me ask you a question, buddy. Do you love the classical music theme Adagio for strings?
Sure do, Nathan. Why do you ask?
If you love it, Brenton, oh boy, are you going to get a whole bloody feast worth of Adagio for strings in this movie, Brenton?
Yes.
Because why have a theme once in a movie when you can have it like 30 fucking times something happens in a film? Like, oh boy. Does Oliver Stone love the tune Adagio for strings? I feel like, did they not hire someone to do a soundtrack? Did they just like Google search like music that was out of copyright? And they're like, that one. That's the one song in this movie played on repeat.
Well, I think, like, obviously there's been a choice made there, but I agree. I think it gets a little bit repetitive.
Doesn't
and I would have
it?
liked to have seen more variety.
Anything
in the sound
else
selection for the movie.
You know what's really funny? So Oliver Stone initially was going to cast the lead singer of The Doors for this movie, and he was going to have the soundtrack be music just from The Doors, the band. So like,
oh my goodness. Oh no. Oh no.
Oh no, I know, and that didn't happen. Sadly, actually, because the lead singer died before he could read the script. Yeah, so it went in a different direction. But yeah, it would have been very different. It does feel wanky though when, like, again, there's that word again, like when the classical music comes on and all that. It's like,
I don't think I was wanked out by the music. I think I was
That's a
okay.
quote.
I think this movie isn't as pretentious as others.
No,
that have
yeah,
been
yeah.
clearly going for that Oscar bait.
yeah, absolutely.
But I do understand your point. At the end of the day, though, Nathan, like I said, my biggest disappointment with this is that it tries to explain its meaning, it tries to explain its thesis, and I really just don't think it needed to. I just think we should have just been left with the events that happened in this movie.
Yeah, you're not wrong, man.
And left to ponder.
The movie speaks for itself. It's so funny hearing you say that, because normally that's something I would say. I've said it heaps on the show, so it's so funny hearing that come out of your mouth. But just got like previous like transcripts of episodes we've done. He's like, that's what Nathan said. Like,
But yeah, I've got my notes here. I'm like, sound more like Nathan. You'll sound more intelligent.
oh, stop it. Oh.
Yeah, there's a cheeky compliment for you there, mate. Oh,
they're
yeah.
so rare though.
You're fond of me lobster, ain't you?
At the end of the day, mate, even though like I'm disappointed in that aspect of the movie, I still think it's worth a watch.
Yeah. It's funny, because the biggest selling point to this movie I can't say, because it's such a spoiler. Like,
Okay.
look, this is episode 140. If you're listening to the show, you're listening to the show. If this is your first episode, welcome. Like, thank you so much for listening. But like, if you've listened to us before, hopefully you trust our judgment somewhat with these movies. So like, this is an important movie, I think, above anything else. Like, when you see the dark levels that this movie goes to, like, this feels so eye-opening. Like, you see such a ugly side of humanity, and the film is so raw in its presentation of it that alone sells the film for me. Even if everything else was shit, I would still say watch it for that alone.
If people were worried from what you just said and they were like, oh, I'm worried now that this movie is going to be graphic, or if it's going to be dark for the sake of being it, do you think it justifies its own existence?
No, it's not like #edgy. It's like, it's showing something that happens, man. Like, it shows something that happens in every war, and like, but Hollywood always shies away from this kind of stuff because it's not, nice.
Yes.
So like, this is a film that unabashedly shows a really, really dark side of war, and that you gotta.
Yeah.
I think it certainly shaped my opinion on war. I feel like I've changed after coming out of this movie, which is probably the greatest compliment you can give a film. Like,
that's exactly right. And Nathan, I only asked that before just because, in case I think that people would worry from what you said, that like, oh god, like these movies that are being so dark and graphic for the sake of it. But yeah, I agree with you.
Zack Snyder didn't direct this.
It justifies its existence, and it's and it's powerful because of it. So yeah, Nathan, I'm going to give it a thumbs up, buddy.
Yeah, I'm giving it a thumbs up too. Let's spoil this thing. You spoiled it.
What?
The movie.
Oh, you said that there was things about this movie that you'd have to spoil to really get into the nitty gritty to make your point.
Yeah.
So what were those moments, and what was going on?
Well, obviously the darkest thing in this movie, Brenton, is that Willem gets high.
What a scene, hey!
I love that scene,
like
man.
when like Charlie's just like, first day on the job, he's like, wow, that was really dark when the other recruit like, bit the dust. Like, that was awful, and oh god, I've just got back from the hospital after being shot in the back of the head.
Yeah.
Rocks up and everyone's just getting high. Everyone's on the weed express.
Yeah, choo choo, let's get smoking high. That's what they're chanting. And it's great actually. It's like this kind of single take as you kind of go through the tent and that kind of stuff, and like it's because also imagine like, watching this back in like the the 80s. Like drugs, weren't. I mean, they're still not prolific, but like seeing war soldiers get really high on the job, like everyone would be like, oh, gasp, like who? Our soldiers? They're not getting high in Vietnam. But like, it's a great scene. It's great seeing them all bond. I found it so homoerotic, and I loved it. Willem's like blowing like smoke into like the barrel of the gun, so he has to like wrap his mouth on the other side of it. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, Willem points his shotgun in Charlie Sheen's face, and then says, "Oh, put your mouth to it," and then he like takes a whiff and then blows it straight down that barrel into Charlie's waiting mouth.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a graphic sentence.
Yeah.
So
Jesus.
So yeah, it was quite a fun scene. It was nice to finally get to know Keith David, especially in that scene, I thought, and for Charlie to kind of bond with some of the others, but also how it was juxtaposed with what goes on in the other sergeants, how both sides are kind of different.
So like, yeah, it was really interesting seeing that juxtaposition because even before like Scarface becomes a villain, like I still didn't like him. Like there was still something definitely off about him. But like it was interesting, we kind of got to see his perspective, like when they're playing poker cards and that kind of stuff. Like you could tell this is a guy that just can't be fucked with. So yeah, I really loved that kind of scene. But no, I mentioned that as a joke mention. Obviously that's not the darkest scene that's in this movie. Like, good lord, I haven't felt as disgusted as I have watching the war crimes in this movie. That village scene, man.
The whole village scene just gets worse and worse as it goes on.
Doesn't it though?
It just starts off in one essence, and you're like, oh gosh, that's horrible. Oh gosh, that's horrible. Oh, that's terrifyingly horrible, and that's just that's horrific at the end, and you're like, well, great.
Because let's walk through it. Like, because I was already pissed off when the Americans arrived and one guy just like shoots a pig. I was like, dude, what the fuck? I was like, what did the pig do to you? It's like, you just shot Babe. Good job, mate. You're like, ooh. as the pig goes down. Because this happens, man. Like no military's immune to like soldiers being assholes like on the job. But man, this is we're gonna get very political this episode, Brenton. It's like, oh, war, the military. Oh,
I don't know if it's necessarily political to say
that war crimes are bad.
War crimes are bad. Yeah. I was on edge, when the way the soldiers were kind of treating the kids in this village. And whilst I understand, well, I know myself, I'm not in the military, No. I don't have that experience, and I don't know what it's like to go into a war zone, even when there's children and when children can be perceived to be threats and are threats in cases and whatnot. So I don't understand that, as me in my experience. But still, like, the way that they were just like throwing kids about and whatnot, I'm going, oh God, these guys are just like, it's too far. And then when Charlie starts making that guy dance, I was like, this is just
Jesus Christ. Like, why? They are civilians. Like, they are so obviously civilians. It's like, I kind of get when that guy was running away, like they thought he was going to inform someone or something like that, so they shot him. Like, I understand if you think there's motive or you think there's this, because they're looking for supplies. I think that's like the reason they're going in. Like, they're looking for like where.
Well, they were finding weaponry. And they were going, well, shit. And they were also finding lots of food, lots of produce, and they were going, well, this is more produce than this village needs. So who are you feeding?
Yeah.
Like the fact that other soldier then like sees the dancing and then like takes the butt of his gun to that guy's head and like kills him,
beats the guy to death with. You're making a one-legged man jump, which is just like there is no justifiable reason for you to do that as a soldier. Like
obviously he takes a life, which is just horrible, and the way he does it is just horrible. But it's also like he then like kind of takes glee in it afterwards, and like Charlie Sheen, you can see he's reacting the way he is because the war is taking a toll on him, and he's breaking down.
Yeah.
Whereas this other guy is like sadistic, and you're like, oh God.
How did this fucker get into the military? It's like, obviously Vietnam, they vetted them a little bit less than they do these days. Like, thank God conscription's gone. But like, man, it's just, that fucker should have never been given a gun in the first place. It's like, oh, and when like the mother dies, like she's watching her son being like, I honestly, I can't think of anything uglier as far as like humanity goes. Like, that's, like, to think that people are capable of doing that somewhere in the world, it's just, we're sitting on a little booth in Sydney being like, how could these horrors exist? Like,
but it's worth talking about. I mean, like, and then it's followed up by like, let's execute, the sergeant just executes, this woman, and then threatens to execute a child.
Jesus Christ. It just gets
worse.
Before
the goblin intervenes. And then that's all, that fun scene is followed up by like a gang rape scene, which I was just like, well, shit. At that point, you're just like, well...
And then they just burn down the whole village.
Terrible.
It reminds me a little bit of like when we watched Seven Samurai and they burned down that village.
Yeah.
And you just see the tragedy in that.
Watching this, it's like I said, just escalates. It keeps getting worse.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, things in this movie keep getting worse as well in terms of the plot, not the actual quality itself. But by gosh, like some things just go to shit in this movie,
Don't they? It's
and everyone
like-
just seems to go along with it.
Also, I feel like it's because like they were fucking up a lot. That's what. It's one thing I really did like that this film showed. Like it showed the soldiers like almost having no clue what they're doing. They're like,
Yeah.
I loved it when like Charlie Sheen was on watch, and there was a great tense moment of where like he's kind of keep on looking out on watch, and like someone's gonna rock up, and then you kind of slowly see the Cambodian soldiers like praying through and that kind of stuff, and Charlie Sheen's debating if he throws the grenade, and then like he says like, and then at the end of the day he's like, dude, I didn't fuck up the watch. It was that other bloke that was meant to be doing the watch, and they're like, you still fucked up Charlie Sheen. You know what I mean? Like, there's no accountability anywhere in this movie.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Especially when a sergeant kills the sergeant. Hey, Nathan?
Oh my god! Like, how does it? Like, what the fuck? Like, after the village thing, there's a scene right after that where, like, they go back to like their boss, and the guy's like, you know what? If I find out there's any illegal killings here, well, boy, I'm going to call the court martial. Like, when like his boss said that, I'm like, bullshit. There is no accountability anywhere in this movie. It's like you can do whatever the fuck you want, including being like fucking Satan and like and killing another officer. It's like, do we know why? Like we never really get Scarface's deal. Like,
well, because he's highly concerned that Willem's gonna go rat on him and be like,
which
hey,
he should, because it's the law.
So he's like, well, I'll be I'll be going home and be sent to prison probably for a long time, if not the rest of my life. So I'll just kill this guy that's going to inform on me, and that'll solve the issue.
And by the way, everyone knows like Scarface killed him, like everyone, and they're like all debating. It's like that's what. See, I hated him so much throughout the war crime scene, and also for killing Willem and that kind of stuff. We'll get to Willem though.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
But then I hated him the most when we went to the tent afterwards, like the film's like air quotes climax, where like he's almost taunting them to like confront him. He's like, go on, kill me. It's like, you'll be just like me. You know what I mean? It's like, then you'll be killing a fellow soldier.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck, this film is so good with morality. It's just so ugly with it.
Yeah, and then at the end, he's like out and about. Charlie Sheen's like, wrecking stuff in that last fight. And then he's like, goes to like crush his head with a shovel, I think, in the last moment. It's like, dude, what
are you doing?
He's a piece of work. He's not a stable individual, clearly, for many reasons, but no, it's pretty bad.
God, no. He's just like, because it's funny because like Willem sees, I love the moment though, because they're both like running about in the forest, and then like he spots Willem, and then Willem sees him, and there's like a little pause, and like Willem kind of like waves hello. Like he's kind of just standing like, hey.
Yeah, I feel sorry for Willem in that scene, because it's like he has that moment where he smiles at him. He's like, oh, it's my buddy.
Yeah.
He's like smiling, then he realizes, and the smile just slowly fades away.
Oh.
And then he takes a bullet.
And then like, and Charlie Sheen can immediately smell it out. Like when it's the second Scarface meets up Charlie Sheen's like, oh, where's Willem Dafoe? The villain's like, I don't know, probably at his house in LA. Then he's like, no, he's actually in the forest behind me. Then like Charlie's like, oh, can I see the body? And he's like, no. And he's like, maybe just go in the other direction. Like it reeks of war crimes. Like, Jesus.
Yeah.
See, even if he doesn't get like arrested for like killing Willem, like he'd still get arrested for all that village shit. Like the fuck, like he's getting screwed either way. Like,
speaking of like, I guess big scenes or climactic scenes or scenes that like made you hate the character. The ending of this movie is pretty nuts in the sense of like a lot of people are dying on the screen. You know what I mean?
That's
a lot of
some great
side
deaths.
characters are just biting the dust and just leaving us, and you're like, oh wow, like this is really full on. And then there's like suiciding soldiers that are running into like the command tents and blowing them up, and you're like, holy crap, this is just...
man. I was like, this is crazy. It's like every character on the phone being like, this is fucking crazy. Like send in the truck, like send in the bombs. But it's literally that, man. Like, and also I love how like that this escalates. Like you see them like go into like the enemy camps, and like the camera, it does almost like a Kubrick thing where like the camera like will slowly go around the corner, and you're not sure if there's going to be a soldier there like about to fuck you up. Like,
exactly, yeah. There's that great scene with Willem in the rats tunnel.
Yeah,
when he's like having to check the corners, and I couldn't imagine anything worse than having to go through a rats tunnel in Nam. Like, especially having like just with your little torch and pistol, like you have no clue what's down there.
No,
you've got no idea. You literally just get entering pitch darkness.
No, it is horrifying. But I love that Willem is so calm when he's doing it. He looks so fucking badass. Like, he's just popping caps, just like knowing his shit, just doing like one shoot kills. Like, he makes it look calm, but you can see it's fucking horrifying. Like, jeez. And like, meanwhile, like you'll have people being blown up, and like trying to hold their guts in and that kind of stuff. And like, there's just such a contrast in this. Like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so did you then believe, Brenton, that Willem was dead when, like, you know, the sergeant shot him or whatever?
No.
See, I did. I thought Willem was dead. So I had the biggest yeet moment of my life when they're fucking flying away, and then out of the bushes runs Willem Dafoe. I'm like, you fucking run, Gobby. You sprint. Run for your life, Norman. You're gonna make it. Parker's waiting for you.
I tell you what's sad about Willem in this movie is that he probably could have survived if he just had his goblin glider.
Oh, I know. Christ. That would remind me. So no, just do the same scene from Iron Man 1, where like Iron Man just like drops into the middle of like the Afghan war, and he's just like blowing shit up. Like, just do the same thing with Gobby. He just sprays the whole army. He's like, sleep.
Oh, funny.
It'd be so great. I was hoping for him to like just like run back into camp and shout like, you know how much I've sacrificed?
Back to formula.
This is dying words. Like, yeah. But no, like, this has some iconic imagery in this movie, right, Brenton? Like,
Absolutely.
I guess we'll maybe have to save it for another segment, but like,
We will save it for another segment,
Yeah.
but just know that this is a very pretty movie with lots of visually striking sequences in it.
yeah, dude, this looks really nice. I'm surprised I actually didn't win cinematography that year. I wonder what did. Because this won Best Picture and Best Director. I remember that at the Oscars. I was there.
Yeah. Were you presenting?
I was a little baby. I was like, Google Gaga. I love it because you know the Oscars have like those like child ambassadors or whatever. There's always like some kid who's like, I'm the ambassador for the Oscars, and they do fuck all besides like say one sentence outside like, you know, the tent. It's like that.
Yeah.
That's what I did. That's who I'll be.
You're the token child.
I am the token child, Brenton. I've been called that many times before, both on and off air.
I won't deny that, Nathan.
No, but you're right, dude. Like, this is really pretty, and and you know what? This has some really tranquil moments as well. Like, you know, you get those stereotypical lots of violence in a war film kind of stuff. But one of my favorite moments was when Charlie Sheen wakes up and he sees the deer. Like the forest is quiet for the first time since the movie started, and you kind of see him just like strolling about, like.
And it's just serene, and he's like, oh, this is new world at the moment.
Yeah, it's great. And then he stumbles upon the body of Sergeant Scarface.
Can you believe that Charlie is not going to have to go back to the war now because he was injured twice after all that?
Yeah, I'm so curious what happens after this movie. That would have been a good special segment we would
Yeah.
have done today. Because there's going to be some serious PTSD, man. Like,
Oh, absolutely. I like that guy that stabs it, like survives and stabs himself in the leg so he can go home.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, fuck this, man. It's like, it's like,
I like that because I know that's what I would do.
oh yeah, man. Like, if you and I got dropped in Vietnam, I'd be like, we gotta get out of here, man. Like, if we got dropped in Vietnam, I'd do the same thing that like Steve Coogan does in like Tropic Thunder, where like he takes like one fucking step on a landmine and then it just immediately blows up.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what... You know, you like to think that in like a sticky situation, you're going to handle yourself well.
Yeah.
And I think for the most part, I would mentally. But I think I'd just do something clumsy or stupid and I'd just be a goner straight away. I'd be like those... You know those like deer videos? Have you seen those deer videos where they accidentally like suicide off bridges? Like...
What?
So like they'll be...
What
Yeah,
are
man.
you watching, Brenton?
So my YouTube algorithm's obviously fucked.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's a...
As long as you're not watching this on our account, Brenton.
No. God, no. But there's like people sitting in traffic on bridges, right?
Right.
And there's a deer freaking out going, oh my God, there's all these cars. Like, you know, I'm trying to get out of the way of all these people. And it will sprint across the road and like jump off the bridge thinking that it's going to land on
Oh
something
my
on the other
God.
side of it. And they fall to their deaths.
Jesus Christ, I had no idea this existed.
Yeah.
This
like,
is such a depressing day, Brenton.
like, could you imagine like
Not
being
Bambi.
like, oh yeah, it's like they think they're jumping the fence to like, you know, as we would, like jump the fence to like get over to your neighbor's house or
Yeah.
something. And they're like, oh, quick get away. Oh, imagine just realizing like, you know, straight away. That's when you know you're fucked up.
Bambi's dead, Brenton.
Well, Nathan, we're not here to talk about Bambi. That's another movie that we both didn't like.
No, we've...
Bambi would have been a million times more interesting if there was a sequence where he accidentally jumped off a bridge.
Could you imagine? Just like for some reason Bambi's in Nam. Like that's where the forest is set. It's just like Will's just like strolling through the forest and like one of the bullets and you just like hits the deer and you just hear mother. It's like Will's like stumbling through. Like
There's so many crossovers that could happen in this. Like maybe this is why Charlie Sheen's character in 2.5 Men is so like disgruntled all the
Yeah.
time. He's actually suffering from PTSD because it's the same character. He's like remembering his time in Nam or whatever.
yeah, man. Dude, how shit is 2.5 Men?
Oh, it's terrible.
It's so
It's
bad.
fucking awful.
It's so terrible.
You know, I remember remember as a kid, like not as a young kid, but like probably early teens or just like becoming a teenager, probably around 12 maybe. I watched that show for a bit and I was like, oh yeah, I didn't really laugh at the jokes or anything. I just kind of like laughed along because I didn't really understand.
Because there's a laugh track every third sentence.
Yeah, exactly. And then like watching it like, a couple years after that, you're just like, this is absolute dog shit. And then it gets worse because Ashton Kutcher comes on the show and like replaces Charlie Sheen. And it's like, okay, how's that for a sentence? I just said Ashton Kutcher replaces Charlie Sheen. Like, that is not a replacement for Charlie Sheen.
You couldn't be
like,
more
what are you
further
talking
removed.
about? It's so bizarre.
It's so terrible.
bizarre.
And it's so funny because, like, in Australia, like, for some reason, Channel 9, like, I swear only had 2.5 Men on. Like, it was...
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
I don't know what the syndication rights were, but I swear to God, like, it was always on Aussie TV. Like, this is, like, before streaming. Like in Australia, the only things you could watch was, like 2.5 Men, like, The Mentalist, and, like, The Simpsons. And, like, a rotation between those three fucking shows.
No. It was 2.5 Men, The Mentalist, sometimes The Simpsons if you're lucky.
Yeah, if you're
and
lucky.
Fucking Big Brother. And you're
Christ.
away. You know what I mean? Just fucking you pop on the TV. I wonder what movie's on tonight. No, it's just Friday Night Live on Big Brother. Oh, look at them all at Dreamworld trying to balance on a pole.
Christ,
Fuck
it's
me.
it's just garbage, man. And I think that's why Aussie TV just had such a bad rep because it would always play 2.5 Men. And I just, as a child, you're looking at Charlie Sheen fuck about these supermodels, and it's like, my brother's a chiropractor, and we got this kid in here who's acting like us because we're assholes. It's like, there's nothing likable. And like the cleaning lady comes in and she's like, you guys are assholes. I'm the cleaning lady. It's like, I have no patience for any of it.
She's an asshole too. She's like, oh, fuck you. And they're like, oh, fuck you. And then everyone's like, fuck you. And then it's like, oh, fuck you. And you're like, oh, God.
2.5 Men, question mark? I fucking, you know what I hate most about that show as well? Fuck the song. Everyone used to like the song, like, men. I'm like, fuck that.
Men.
Oh.
Yeah. No.
I hate it.
The other one, okay, what's amazing is that, like, Channel 9, was it Channel 9? It
was Channel 9,
like,
man.
replaced 2.5 Men. They're like, oh, feck, 2.5 Men, like, we need something as popular. Oh,
What do
we've
the
got the
nerds
Big
like?
Bang Theory. Let's put the Big Bang Theory on, like, 24/7. I hated that show, too.
Oh.
I can't stand the Big Bang Theory.
Same.
I think it's shit.
I think maybe
it's not funny.
I think maybe a couple episodes, like at the start of season 1, when I was like an early teenager, I'm like, oh, this is kind of funny. I'm like, look, nerds, maybe they're having sex. Who would have thought? But then, like, after the novelty of like Jim Parsons like wears off,
was that the professional pitch? Do you reckon? Nerds having sex. Who would have thought?
I swear to God, that was the pitch. I would put money that was a sentence said in that pitch meeting. Like you know what I mean? It's like, and like, and Jim's amazing in that show as Sheldon. Like, he is genuinely incredible. Like he does, like his straight arrow nerd. Like, I love it. He's so fucking funny. But like, God, that show was horrendous. Like, I hate Penny. I hate all of them. I hate the gratuitous cameos.
I hate that it's like, this sounds bad, but I hate what like dumb people think smart people act like intelligent people act like it's like, and I don't mean dumb people, I mean like, it's so generalized. It's so crap.
It's just
like, they're always making like World of Warcraft jokes and like these stupid jokes, but they're not for like people that play World of Warcraft.
No.
They're for like people that are just sitting at home to laugh at nerds.
This feels like something like a 1950s high school bully would have written about his memories about beating up a nerd.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's exactly right, Nathan. Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's so fucking demeaning. And then you'll have someone like Stan Lee or like Willem Shatner come on the show, which like almost validates it. It's like, but we represent the community. It's like, you're not though, but it's like, write in. If you're a nerd, listeners, if you're a fucking nerd, here, pen on paper, listeners. If you're a nerd, write into us and let us know if you like Big Bang.
Let us know. Does Big Bang offend you? And do you like 2.5 Men?
Yeah. and do you love one more than the other? Do you love both? Do you hate both? This is the real questions we want to ask today.
Nathan, last thing before we go to special segments, getting it way back to the film.
Leaving that tangent.
I liked the death scene of that fucking sergeant when like he's like, just do it, and then like Charlie just does it like straight away.
Yeah,
like,
he doesn't even fucking
and
hesitate.
you're like, holy shit, he's gone. Yeah,
I love it as well because like Charlie's like debating like the morality of like killings during this like whole movie. It's like, what is war and all that kind of stuff. But the second he's been confronted of like killing his own soldier, he's like, oh yeah, he's like pop. Oh, I cheered. Man.
Absolutely,
I cheered
man.
when that villain died. I'm like, fuck.
Did you
man.
actually?
I did. Although you know what, part of me had that moment where I'm like, I want you to have a fate worse than death. I'm like, I want you to be arrested and the world know what you did. You know what I mean? Like, I want you to. Yeah, I want you to go through Nuremberg. I want you to do the whole thing. Like,
wow, just keep slapping on that hatred, Nathan. You know,
it really roll me up, man.
It will lead you to the dark side. I think you need to just take a deep breath, go over chat to Yoda, and just chill out, man. You don't want to go full Hayden. You don't want to go there.
The sergeant's just like, shoot me, and then like, Charlie Sheen's like, only a Sith deals in absolutes, and then just like picks him up, like carries him off.
Or like, like the scene where he's like, oh, kill me. It's like he's Count Dooku right before like Palpatine says do it, and then like Charlie Sheen does it, and he like pulls that face that Count Dooku pulls, like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
like,
really? Yeah, it'd be so funny. I'd love to see a fan edit of just like that a scene again where the sergeant dies, but just before Charlie like shoots him, you just hear in the distance, do it, and they both don't react to it.
I think it should be a hard cut to Palpatine saying do it.
Do it.
Like if someone
he does it little like head nod as he does it, like
if one of our listeners can edit just that scene from Platoon and add a cutaway shot to Palpatine looking on and saying do it, and then he just goes pop pop pop, I will pay you money. Nathan, shall we talk about some special segments?
Let's do it.
Special segment.
Ooh, so special. Let's put on our intellectual caps and smoke a pipe, Brenton, because I want to ask about plays, about the theatre. Brenton, do you think this belongs on the stage?
Here's the thing, Nathan.
Oh, a thing.
I don't think I think this movie does such a good job of capturing the visceral experience of Nam,
Right, yeah.
and I think that it needs those effects to work. In saying that, I think that there's some excellent scenes in this, and I'd love to see them play out on a stage. Like that whole village sequence would just be so.
Imagine that on a stage, man. Like, could you imagine?
It would just be so intense.
The tension in the like having the whole audience quiet. You just feel that tension in the air. Like having this actor, like, and this young child screaming out for her grandmother. Like, I'd love to see that on stage, man. Jeez.
You're sadistic? No, I'm kidding.
No. There's many things I've seen on stage. Give it a poll. But like, imagine the production designer. Imagine like, trying to work out the OH&S for this. Like all the special fire effects for a reply. Like, oh shit. Like
oh god, yeah.
Be a nightmare.
Yeah, I think you could do it. You just have to cut some content.
I mean, hey, if you could do the fucking French Revolution on the stage, you can do the Vietnam War.
That's true. Maybe someone like just pops out from like a rat hole at some point, like during the show. It's like, hey, like pops out of the orchestra pit.
Hey, my name is Jean Valjean. Just as he's coming out and just like, I'm in Vietnam.
Oh my god, that is not. We don't need. We do have a musical crossover of Vietnam. It's called Miss Saigon.
Oh yeah,
and it's by the people that made Bloody Lame Me, Nathan.
We've come full
this
circle.
Exists.
We've done it again. You. We're doing some gun fingers, listeners, in case you can't see.
Nathan, do these characters learn the true meaning of Christmas?
That's a really good question.
I mean, literally, there was no Christmas scene within the film, but you get my point.
No.
Did they learn the life lessons that were in this movie? Don't go to war. War sucks, and don't like fucking commit war crimes.
Yeah, don't commit war crimes. We don't really see the recompense of them coming back. Like, we don't see the ramifications of it. Like,
Charlie just tells us it's always going to be a part of me, man.
I guess some of them. I guess the ones who don't learn the true meaning of Christmas die. like, you know what I mean? Like,
that's true.
Yeah. So what is it? You die a villain or live a hero, whatever it is.
Here's my advice. No one ever learns this lesson in the movie. No one learns this specific lesson, and that is, guys, if you're going into a war zone, don't smoke marijuana.
No. It slows your reflexes.
Be alert.
Oh.
Be alert. Like for your brothers in arms, just do them a favor. Don't throw them to the side like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I guess you know what? I think this movie needed some Christmas, Brenton. I think at the end of all this, they go back to the tent. There's a little like Christmas tree with some tinsel. They got like they're just sitting around opening gifts. Like just really depressed.
Surviving this. Maybe when Charlie Sheen goes to the hospital after this, it's actually Christmas time, and everyone's just there like lying in the hospital ward, singing Christmas carols, drinking eggnog, having a good old time.
Yeah, exactly. And our favourite special segment, Brenton, MCU, where we try and put characters from movies we review into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We put them into the Avengers movies.
Nathan, I'm telling you already, Willem Dafoe would have survived this movie if he'd had his goblin glider. I'm telling you right now, Green Goblin hanging around, Norman Osborn himself, like just wrecking shop in Vietnam.
I would have loved it.
We need to call in an airstrike, and Willem's like, no need.
He just jumps on. Like, do you want Harry there as well on his little skateboard? Like, do you want that to be a part of it?
Sure, father and son team up in Nam.
Yeah.
Why not?
They're at the Osborne mansion. They're like, oh, remember that time in Vietnam? Like, so they're like having dinner. No, they have like, no. They do the scene from Spider-Man 1 where they have like Thanksgiving with like Aunt May. They're all sitting around the table. And like, they're all chatting and that stuff. They just bring up Vietnam memes.
But yeah, maybe Norman's becomes one of those characters. Like, it's such that cliche, and it's used for comedic effect sometimes. When there's that like character that's always like telling Nam stories, like
It's like Big Lebowski. Like it's John Goodman.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. Like he's just.
I would have loved John Goodman.
Goodman was in Platoon.
This is what he did. Shut the fuck up, Johnny. It's like, shut the fuck up, Willem. Like, just like John Goodman in this movie. I would have loved to see John Goodman just running about like, with his stupid sunglasses. Like, I could so see this. What if Willem was like looking at his uniform and he's like, green. Like he's getting the inspiration for the Green Goblin, and then he like goes back to New York. And he's like, this is what we got to do, boys.
Like a post-credit scene where he's just like looking in the mirror going, I like this color, and then just cuts away and everyone's like, oh, Green Goblin.
Like he goes like the Oscorp like R&D team, and he's like, right, I got this idea from Nam.
Shit. Nathan, what stills this movie? Let's find out.
It's blinding.
So if you don't know, What Stills This Movie is a segment on the show where Nathan and myself pick a single frame from the film we are reviewing, and we usually pick this on the basis of it being super funny, but sometimes it's just a beautiful piece of cinematography that we need to talk about. Now, today, if you want to see that still that we're talking about right now, just look at the links below.
Yeah.
It'll take you to our Instagram page. Check it out.
They're all there. And today's still, like, it's the iconic shot from the movie. I yeeted, man. I was like, oh, this is where that shot's from, where, like, Willem is, like, running through the forest in slow motion. He's getting, like, fucking riddled with bullets, like.
And, like, everyone always steals this moment, too, or, like, does, like, a satirical version
Tropic
of
Thunder,
this moment. It's
when
such
Ben Stiller gets riddled with bullets.
It's, like, it's such an iconic moment. But, like you said at the start of the show, I had no idea that you didn't know that was in this movie, Nathan. So it must have been, like, a moment of elation and then a moment of deep sadness.
That's the
Because it's
thing.
not a nice moment.
Because I was so excited when Willem like lived. I'm like, you fucking run, Gobby. But then when he died, I'm like, no. I was like, there's no fucking way he survived all that. Like,
there's no fucking way he was saying, "Don't tell Harry," as he like fell to the ground.
Dude, when I looked up YouTube clips of this on the internet, like all the comments were just that. It was just like, you would love it. It's all Spider-Man references. Like, it's.
You know what I'm doing after today's episode is just checking out those YouTube comments.
You would love it,
I
man.
appreciate them.
But you know what's really funny as well? Like, I love the way that Willem is posed. Like in this actual frame that we got of him, like, throwing his hands up. It does remind me a little bit of when he played Jesus, of when he did Last Redemption.
Hey, yeah, good point.
I think there is a bit of a Christ imagery in this. I think the way he's kind of, the sacrifice. I think there's something in there, Brenton. There's themes, there's metaphors, there's all that stuff.
Yeah, and the other sergeants, the Judas. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, that'd be interesting casting.
But if the other guy was Harvey Keitel, then I'd have like serious issues. I'd be like, oh god, here we go again.
Oh dear. Well, hey,
Hey!
let's look at this film's poster. Brenton,
Yes.
let's look at this film's poster.
But is it art? So I'm looking at it, and it's not good, Nate.
It's really shit. And it's so funny, because like all the posters for this movie after theatrical release is what we chose for the still. It's like Willem just posing, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's exactly right.
and it's what the poster should be.
That's what I mean. It's quite a quick conversation, this, because it's like, this one sucks, it's not that interesting, and the ones with the Willem shot are great.
Yeah.
The only problem with it is that it spoils the movie, but hey, I can live with it.
Whereas this one, it's just shit. It's like a sorry, but like it is. All it is, it's like you got like this like upside down soldier's hat made of like, war notes and cards, and it's all like a black poster, and then you got the silhouettes of the soldiers just walking in a line. It just looks so fucking generic, especially the tagline where it's like the first casualty of war is innocence. It's like, that's the thing with Oliver Stone. You're not that poetic when it comes to the writing. It's like whenever Charlie Sheen writes his little journal entries, it's not like you're not reading like Yeats's account of like the First World War. You know what I mean? Like,
No.
the poster's shit. Like, give it a Willem. We know how to fix it. Title talk.
Ooh, it's the title.
Do you like Platoon?
I mean, I do. I think it's suitable. I think it works. What else? What would you call it, Nathan?
I mean, my knee-jerk reaction is to say something about Willem, but like, honestly, I don't. Because like, was the Platoon the Platoon? Like, yeah, you kind of follow the Platoon. I guess they're all banded together, but like the art of war. Or something like that, like something more thematic than just like Platoon. Like,
Well, I think Platoon is referencing the themes. Like, well, it's referencing, the disgruntlement within the ranks themselves, and how Willem and the other sergeant, are at war and have different ideals, and how war, and how the platoon like is going through that, and it's like literally that whole village sequence only happens because the platoon is on it. It's so I think it's suitable. I think it works.
Okay, How about, what if we called it Adagio for Strings?
Okay, I'm down with that 150%.
No, that's what the poster should have been. It should have just been like the movie score. Just like the notes of Adagio for Strings. Just like...
Sounds good. I'm done with that. I'll hang that on my wall.
It's like Oliver Stone with headphones on, like giving a thumbs up to someone looking at the poster. He's like, he's very excited. It's playing. Like,
Nathan, shall we pass that power all the way over to the people?
let's do it.
Pass it here.
What?
The power to the people.
So if you head on over to the tomato meter or the tomato meter, you will see that Platoon has a critical consensus of 88% with an audience score of 93%.
People
That's 5%
like it.
extra.
Oh, extra. They got 93. And it made bank, man. This made like, what, 130 mil in America. So, and I think it cost something nothing. It cost like a few mil to make. Like, this film did well. Like, Oliver Stone was very happy. He got Oscars and money.
What a combination. Jeffrey M. Anderson wrote in from Combustible Celluloid and gave it a positive review and said, Oliver Stone based his movie on his own experiences and attempted to make a more realistic Vietnam movie, simpler and more grounded than things like Apocalypse Now and The Deer Hunter. And he succeeds, truly making this war look like hell. Yeah, I mean, like, just in reference to that last piece of the review, we've been saying this whole episode, that this movie really just goes there at some points, and it's more powerful because of it. Nathan, I just want to talk about Oliver Stone based this on his real life war experiences.
Yeah.
If that's true, and I don't know how much of this is based on that.
Oh no, it is. So So before we
really?
recorded today, dude, I watched Oliver Stone go on the Joe Rogan podcast because
Right.
last year Oliver Stone published a memoir about leading up to how he made Platoon. I'd recommend, if you love Joe Rogan, like every other podcaster does, listen to the episode. It's really, really interesting. Hear Oliver Stone talk about how he tried to make this movie. It goes for like half an hour. It's really, really good. But yeah, he was like saying like, so all these characters are based on people that he served with when he was on the front lines. They aren't identical. Like Oliver Stone would report any war crimes if he saw them. But like you know, Oliver Stone especially said like he thinks bullets are too close. Like he said he said in Hollywood they like to depict gun battles as like you always see explosions and fire everywhere. The bullets are always like coming cross. But in real life, like bullets go so far away and they're so like sudden and they're there and they're gone. Like so he like it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's scary. Yeah.
Well, Robert Stone, Oliver Stone. Do I see a resemblance here?
Oh.
From the New York Review of Books, didn't like it. He said, yeah, it's like Oliver Stone's like shitty little brother. He's like, man, your movie sucks.
Yeah, it's like the black sheep of the family being like, hey, big brother, you suck.
Yeah, he's like the Vincent Vaughn and Fred Claus. That's what he is. Whenever I imagine like a shitty brother, that's where my mind goes to. Like, just Vince Vaughn being very petty and Fred Claus. Anyway, that's the first and last time that movie will ever be mentioned on the show. For a while, Platoon amazes. Its authenticity and dark, dramatic tone promise a great deal, but the characters gradually disappear into formula and action into melodrama. I can see where he's coming from because, like, I agree. I think the third act's weak because it just goes into full war mode. Because after that tent battle, they kind of just go in, they kind of clean up shop, and then, like, you know, Charlie finds Sergeant kills him. Like, that's the end of the movie. So, like, I kind of wish there was more than that. I wish there was kind of more of a morality debate because that's what I found most interesting about the movie as opposed to the actual gun battles itself.
Yeah.
I get that, but I don't think they're archetypes. I don't think these are trope characters.
No, I didn't think so either.
No. So I'm going to have to disagree with you there, Robert Stone.
Paul W. wrote in and gave this 4.5 stars and said, raw, visceral portrait of jungle warfare. Brave too, given the inclusion of American war crimes.
Yeah.
Look, like we said this at the start, like it was very brave for going there, especially I think at the time. I wish we just weren't left with like a summation of what we'd seen. It's like, just leave us with it. It's ugly and you can't really explain it.
Like Brenton.
It's horrifying. Yeah. Thanks, Dave.
Andrew K gave it 2 stars and said, I think this is the first Vietnam War film I've seen. I am so conflicted after watching this film. One part of my mind wants to like it because of the gorgeous cinematography, the clear amount of time and effort that was put into it, and the heart of the actors brought. But this movie is so painful. It has so much depression in it. It's so hard to find a glimmer of hope in this film that you tend to be overwhelmed by the negativity. Overall, this was not a movie I liked.
Yeah, look, it's one of those movies that's it's not a fun watch.
Nah.
Right? It's not a
This
good...
ain't yet Enter the Dragon.
No, you're gonna see some shit if you watch this movie, and yeah, you should be prepared for that before you see it. And you might not really be in the mood to watch something like this, and that's totally okay. So everyone should look after themselves and just know that this movie is quite dark in terms of its...
Stay hydrated, have some snacks while you're watching.
Yeah, and feel free to turn it off if it's getting to you, because I understand that it's quite horrific.
Yeah.
Junkbox Hero commented on YouTube, I was 9 when my dad, a Vietnam vet, took me to see it on the big screen. He said exactly what Oliver said. You can watch this movie because this is how it happened, but don't tell your mother. I was the only one in school that Monday that saw that movie. Lol.
Could you imagine dragging a 9-year-old to the cinema to watch this?
Nathan, I've told you many times, my dad has dragged me to see many films I should not have been watching when I was a child.
Jeez. Do you reckon your dad would have put this on? Like,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
This is the film for adults, man. Like, could you taking a 9-year-old? Imagine being at the audience and you see someone walking with like a child to this kind of movie. Like, I would be that guy. I'd walk past and be like, this is not for kids.
Nathan, what if they were like, what if it was a fan? What if the kid was a fan and was going to this movie on our recommendation?
Oh, jeez. No, he's like thinking, I like Willem Dafoe. I like Green Goblin. Look, this has Willem Dafoe. It's like, I told you my Deadpool story, didn't I?
No.
When I went to see Deadpool when it was first in the cinema. So I saw it with my best friend Trent. And in front of us were like 2 really old ladies. And so I'm like, oh, this is interesting. They love Deadpool. That's awesome. It was like opening weekend. So the movie goes, and like the whole movie, like they just like start tuttering, like, oh, and they're like gasping, and like they're like really reacting to it, like, oh, and like they're all being shocked. And so the movie finished, and then the 2 old ladies turned around to Trent and I at the end of Deadpool, and they said, "That was a shocking film. What did you boys think?" And then like, oh, we really like Deadpool, and they're like, oh, you see, we love Ryan Reynolds. We think he does really good movies. We see all of his films, but this one was a bit too much. And then they just stood up and walked out. They didn't even know what it was going to be.
Oh,
they genuinely saw Deadpool because of Ryan Reynolds.
Classic. Well, look, you should always know, just before you see a movie, do at least some research. Know what you're getting yourself into. There's movies I know that I'm not necessarily in the mood to watch them.
Yeah. Holiday.
Yeah, maybe I'm just not in the... Oh, mate, that is a time. That is a time. Those old ladies would have said that's atrocious as well.
Oh, jeez. Did I tell you I YouTubed that speech, that ending speech from the movie?
No, you didn't.
Oh, I'm so glad I can have this conversation on air. So I did what you said. Like straight after we recorded the episode, I went on YouTube. I looked up the final scene from Holiday where like she does that speech at the shopping mall. Oh my God, that is the worst thing I have ever seen. Oh, it's how could they have actually filmed that? It's like Anna Kendrick, whoever the fuck it is. No, it's like who is it? It's
Emma Roberts.
They're all the same. It's Emma Roberts. Like giving us. I can't believe they actually went to set that day, filmed it, and went home that day going, I did a good day's work. You know what I mean? Like. It's so
Nathan,
bad.
I would rather you get a pair of pliers and fucking rip my fingernails out one by one than watch that again.
She makes like a cancer joke at one point, and everyone thinks like her mum has cancer or something, and and he's just like standing there, and like the crowd fucking cheers when she runs through it. I'm like, fuck off, Emma Roberts. Like, go back to your Angus thongs and perfect stock, and I want none of this. Like,
Nathan, we gotta watch the whole thing.
No, we are. No, we're not.
It's so fucking bad. It's good, dude. Like, it's so good. Like, it's so atrocious.
It looks horrendous. No.
Look. I'll say this quote from Colt Jackson, who commented on YouTube, that also applies to Holiday. This was so messed up, even Green Goblin was morally outraged.
And you're not wrong, man. Like, just put Green Goblin everything. Just have him rock up at the end of Holiday and blow them all up. Like, that's all I want.
Well, he's the right color for a Christmas movie, holiday film.
Yeah. Gee.
Could you imagine the Green Goblin but in a Christmas outfit?
He's just like a little Christmas sweater on, like a Weasley sweater. It's got like a little G on it.
Yeah, and he's got his little bloody Santa hat on.
Yeah.
And if it's the Willem mask, maybe it's got a white beard painted on it.
He's just like a little, what do you want for Christmas? Like, I would love to see it like an Osborne holiday special. Just like yeah. We're at the house with Harry, like he's cooking with MJ, like
yeah, strawberries. It'd be great.
Peter's on the bed, like wrapped in wire, like Doc Ock just put him on the couch. Like, it's just like Harry's like, we're making turkey. Like, do you want to stay? Like,
Nathan, that was Platoon.
That was Platoon, man. We went to Vietnam and we survived, Brent.
We lived to do another week of podcasting. Nathan, we survived so that we can bring the listeners another podcast this week, and in the form of our other show, Feature Fridays with the Banter Boys.
Yeah.
In case you don't know, it's our newest podcast series. It launched earlier this year, and it's a good time. It's where we can talk about movies that are actually less than 20 years old. We can talk about movies today. Talk about topics that you, our fantastic listeners, bring to us for us to talk about. If you want to write in and give us some things to talk about, please contact us on our social forums, which are below, or just send us an email. We'd love to hear from you all. We can't wait to see you all later in the week for Feature Fridays with the Banter Boys.
It's going to be a good time, man. So write on in what you want us to chat about. Later, we'll see you on Friday, and then we'll see you on Mondays, and then we'll see you on Fridays and Mondays. We'll just keep going back and forth between the two, Brenton. It never stops.
Nathan, it's the circle of life. It's going to be a good time.
Right, well, let's get out of here, Brenton. I've had enough of recording. Let's run through the jungle. Just be free.
Nathan, the chopper's waiting. I mean, we're good to go.
Wow, that's what all that noise is outside.